Dr. Sandy Schaefer, our commencement speaker today, is a professor of music. Sandy earned his Doctor of Musical Arts in solo performance from Arizona State University. He was principal percussionist of the Fresno Philharmonic, the Oshkosh Symphony Orchestra, the Green Lake Festival Orchestra, and a member of the Green Bay Symphony Orchestra. As mentioned, he was the 2013 recipient of the Nebraska State College System Teaching Excellence Award. As the award indicates, Sandy's teaching possesses a strong student-centered focus. After arriving at Chadron State in 1999, he played an integral role in building and maintaining the music business curriculum at Chadron State College. He also took a special interest in increasing the success rate of students enrolled in Music Theory 1 and 2. Annually, beginning in 2002, he took his students to meet industry leaders and vendors at the annual National Association of Music Merchants Convention in California. Several CSC alumni, now employed in the music business, thanks to connections made at this venue, meet with the CSC students when they attend. In addition, Sandy has designed innovative offerings such as an African American popular music course to meet an upper division requirement in the General Studies program, or Essential Studies. He also introduced a first-year inquiry course with an arts advocacy focus, an accomplishment he feels is one of his most important at CSC. He also established the popular annual holiday concert, Mallets and Ivory, and led the Jazz Birds, now called the CSC Birds, in many local performances. Sandy has served as Faculty Senate President and on many Faculty Senate committees, as well as publishing 3 books while at CSC. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sandy Schaefer.
Well, thank you, President Ryan, and welcome and congratulations to the graduates and the families and loved ones. You've made it here, and I was instructed by a friend I should work in a little pun about drifting. Yeah, so I'm going to work on that one during my presentation. But let me say, it is really a great honor to be here and fill a few minutes with some thoughts. And I don't know how many of you know this, but I've been teaching at the college level since 1977, and this year I'm retiring from this rewarding profession. So I'm assumed to have some interesting things to say about that time. So initially, I was going to focus on Chadron State College. What a wonderful college this is, and it is. And I take great pride in serving on the faculty because the faculty really cares about teaching. And that's one of they are teaching driven, very, very important. But of course, you're mostly graduate students, and I bet you've completed most of your coursework online. So you probably haven't had that close face-to-face contact with you. And I can only hope that good teaching reached out to you over the internet. Now also, I come from the arts. I'm a musician and I'm a drummer. So my path is really different than everybody else's path. And I'm just hoping that I have something that's a little bit interesting for you to listen to. So first of all, I have to congratulate you on showing up and completing this goal. That's a big deal. We both know how much work it is to complete these classes after working a full day. You come home and you're tired. It's really hard to make that happen, but you stepped up. You completed this next step in your education, right? So now, initially, you may have created this degree to rise up on the pay scale, right? But in doing so, you've identified yourself as a leader in your generation. Now, with your new master's degree in hand, you can take the next step forward to leadership in your field, whatever that might be. You can apply for positions anywhere in the country. We're a very mobile population, or you can remain in your present population and your present position. And there you can assume some leadership roles in your area. And it should be an area where you have a passion. Now, he said, changing his page, leadership is a funny thing. When you're on the outside looking in, you see people's names in those journals, and sometimes it's easy to ascribe some self-centered, ego-driven motives like fame, power, or influence to those people who are already in leadership roles. And the reality is, though, those are the people who stepped forward into leadership. And they probably did so because there was a vacuum. You'd be surprised how much leadership the world needs. They need people to take charge of something. And a lot of the population really doesn't want to do that. So there's usually a vacuum, and potential leaders will step into this vacuum. So you folks, you constantly seeing leadership positions. There's something that needs to be done. So now it's your turn to begin to step up. Now, in many cases, that willingness, all you need to do is express a willingness to help out. And you need to speak to people in those leadership positions and not tell them, I want to be in a leadership position like you, but tell them that you're ready to help out and do whatever needs to be done. And really, that's all you really need to do. You just need to show up and express your willingness to help, and those leadership opportunities will magically open before you. Showing up the way you did to finish your master's degree, that took the same kind of self-starting drive that all organizations are looking for. So what words of advice and encouragement do I have for you? Well, you just heard one, and I tell my students this all the time, you gotta show up. Showing up is 90% of the battle. You'd be surprised how many people who just give up and don't follow through and don't show up. You're not one of those people. You completed this goal. Very important. Well, what else? What else do I have? Well, among the opportunities my profession has given me, as Dr. Ryan mentioned, was I got to attend the NAMM show. And now the NAMM show is a big music products. It's a big music products get together, approximately 100,000 people there who are all involved in the industry. It's closed to the public. So it's a very rarefied atmosphere filled with studded and tattooed rock and roll musicians trying out the latest drum sets and things. But at my first NAMM show, I couldn't remember what it was. Again, thank you, Dr. Ryan, for mentioning it. Was 2002. I gleaned an amazing tidbit at one of these business sessions. Now, you're not all involved in business, but this advice really struck a chord in me. I just felt it had to be true. And in fact, it's really part of the golden rule. Now, in life and business, you're going to be asking people for things. You want to get things from people. You know, you may want a job. You may want to sell something. You might want recommendations. Maybe you want a referral. There's really an endless supply of wants. But what you have to do is have a good working relationship with people. Now, this is the phrase I learned. It was hammered home to me in that first NAMM show. You have to make people feel good about themselves when they're with you. I better say that again. You have to make people feel good about themselves when they are with you. Now, I don't mean you have to lie to anybody, but you just don't want to make them feel small and inferior. Now, in fact, that's really a different expression of the golden rule, isn't it? So you want to make people feel good about themselves. Now, we all know people who don't do that. You know, we have experienced people who make snarky comments like, you think those shoes will ever come back in style? You know? And they're doing the opposite. And I'm sure you've spoken with people who like to lord over you with their intelligence by saying things to kind of put you beneath them. These people are doing the exact opposite. And that doesn't work. They're making people feel bad about themselves when they're with you. I had a colleague on this campus who taught piano, and it was so amazing because he had this kind of rapport with students. He made them feel good about themselves so that then in lessons he could be brutally honest. I've seen him say to students, now that really wasn't very good, was it? And it did not crush the students. I mean, I was amazed at the way he delivered that. And it didn't crush the students because he had laid the groundwork. They knew because He had make them feel good about themselves when they were with him. They knew they were safe there, and what he was telling them was the truth. It's a very, very fascinating dynamic. So I think that's one of the most important things you can carry with you. You need to make people feel good about themselves when they're with you. And once you've accomplished that, you'll be able to speak truth to them pretty easily. Now, this next bit of advice, this is a flaw that I recognized in myself. And I don't really know how to express it to you. And this morning when I figured it out, I put it this way. You need to not be afraid to identify yourselves to others working in your field. Now, I'm not sure what it was with me, if it was fear or snobbery. But for whatever reason, I was always reluctant to go up and speak to strangers. So now, one of those NAMM shows, I ran into somebody who I didn't know, but I knew his name. I knew his name from the 1970s. He was a major mover and shaker in the industry. In the 1970s, he was the educational director of a major drum company. So this guy was somebody I would want to know. Well, about 3 years ago, I went to a session he was giving, and again, this was at the NAMM show. And as he was giving his biographical details, he mentioned that at the start of his career, he was still in high school, and he managed a small music store in the suburbs of Chicago. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And then afterwards, I talked to him, and I found out this guy managed the music store in my hometown. And I had not spoken to him. So, and this is where I started, these memories flooding back in. Now, in my case, in that particular instance, it was probably snobbery. Now, I had played with my rock and roll band, I had played in his music store, but I never talked to this guy. But I was feeling snobby because I used to buy all my percussion equipment at the big music store in downtown Chicago. So I felt kind of lofty, So that moment when I chose not to speak to this guy, right? So 40 years later, I run into him, and I realize I could have known him back in 1966. And then I would have had the experience of his wisdom and knowledge. He was a few years older than I was. I would have been the beneficiary of all his advice. Instead, I wasted that time, 40 years of that time. Now, for me, as I look back on this, I thought that's probably a character flaw. I need to be more outgoing, and I need to go up and speak to people, because really, what you desire, you need to express to people. You need to put it out there. Now, professionals in every field are happy to speak to anybody who has the same passion that they have. And most of these folks were in such a position that they didn't need to make me feel small and insignificant because of their ego. They made me feel good about myself when I was with them. So now, not knowing this guy, this did not stop me, did not hurt my career, but I think my career would have been a lot richer knowing him for those 40 years. So now, you already know about this term. It's called networking, and we're tired of hearing it. You gotta network, right? But this character flaw, whatever it was, prevented me from networking with this person, and prevented me from reaching out. So now I've grown over the years, but as I look at that, I could see that was something holding me back at the very, very beginning of my career. So that's about all I have to say for you today. These are really simple things, Don't be afraid to let your colleagues who are already in leadership roles, don't be afraid to let them know you're willing to help them. Put it out there into the universe, and opportunities will happen for you. Hey, the golden rule, it works. Make people feel good about themselves when they're with you. And you need to go up and speak to people in your field like you. They're excited to talk to you. So don't let feelings of inadequacy or snobbery stand in the way of you expanding your horizons with colleagues in your field. So in closing, I just must say, congratulations on this goal. There'll be many more goals in your life. Go out in the world and do good things. Thank you.